میشل تیلر، سفیر آمریکا در شورای حقوق بشر سازمان ملل متحد، مهمان این بخش از برنامه است. خانم سفیر ابراهیم رئیسی در سخنرانی مجمع عمومی سازمان ملل متحد گزارش‌های اعتراضات در ایران رو دروغ و اشاعه اطلاعات نامعتبر خوند و ادعا کرد بخشی از یک حمله رسانه‌ای و جنگ روانی بوده. واکنش شما به این حرفا چه هست؟
It's such an incredible injustice to the people of Iran who, in the wake of Mahsa Amini's death in custody, were exercising their right to express themselves and to demand their own human rights. And so to deny them even the reality of what it is that they're trying to accomplish is really just so disappointing and patently untrue.
همطور که میدونید ما در سالگرد کشته شدن نیکا شاکرمی هستیم. زن زندگی آزادی برای شخص شما چه معنایی داره؟
As a woman, of course, we are all connected and we are in the fight for freedom together. As Martin Luther King so famously said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so, I think standing in solidarity with the women of Iran who are demanding their own rights and that their voices be heard is incredibly important to me. And I'm grateful that I have a platform as the ambassador to the UN Human Rights Council from the United States to speak on their behalf and in solidarity with them.
آیا با خانواده‌های قربانیان در تماس هستید و از اونها چه میشنوید؟
Not directly, although I certainly am always happy to be able to meet with people and hear from them directly what more I can do to use my voice, but certainly have communicated through other folks, human rights defenders, who have expressed to me what it is that they're hearing and taken my words back. But I would welcome the opportunity anytime to meet with family members.
با مدارکی که به شما میدن چه میکنید خانم تیلر؟
So when folks reach out to me and ask for help or ask us to document what's happening, depending on what it is that I'm hearing, sometimes the documents that I receive are letters directly from people asking for us to take action. And as you know, I have been a very vocal voice speaking out for human rights in Iran for all people, but particularly for women and girls. And then if we were to receive any document that was any form of evidence, of course, we would pass it on to Washington to go to the correct place to preserve that.
فکر میکنید این نقض فاحش حقوق بشر قابل ارجاع دیوان بین‌المللی دادگستری هست؟
The United States isn't part of the International Court of Justice, and I don't feel comfortable speaking about their process. But we certainly have created mechanisms at the Human Rights Council that will, evaluate what is happening and preserve any evidence needed so that accountability is the ultimate goal.
همطور که میدونید 7 نفر طی چند هفته بازداشت و بعد اعدام شدن، عده بسیاری زیر شکنجه جان باختن. راهی برای پیگیری این پرونده ها در مجامع قضایی بین‌المللی هست؟
We certainly hope that there will be accountability for the actions, and the United States will do everything that we can to make sure that the mechanisms are in place for that to happen.
من اخیراً با خواهر حدیث نجفی مصاحبه کردم. ایشون و بسیاری دیگر امنیت کافی ندارن. آیا آمریکا قصد داره برای خانواده‌های دادخواهی که خارج از ایران هستن شرایط تسهیل صدور ویزا یا چنین کارهایی ایجاد کنه تا در جای امن‌تر زندگی کنند؟
Certainly, the United States has an interest in making sure that we're protecting human rights defenders and family members of people who have been killed or unjustly detained. Every case is handled on an individual basis, and I can't speak to the specifics of that one.
حتما فایل های صوتی دکتر قره حسنلو و همسرشون فرزانه رو از زندان شنیدید که از انواع شکنجه در زندان خبر دادن. برای اونها که در حال حاضر جانشون در زندان ها در خطره چه میشه کرد؟
Look, I think as an international community, we have a responsibility to highlight when people's human rights are being violated, when they're being treated improperly anytime, whether it's the process of being detained or what's happening to them in detention, as it seems is the case here. So again, this is a place where the United States and other countries have a responsibility to use our voices to make sure that we're calling attention to violations when they're occurring, and so that we can collectively insist that the paying attention that these actions are not continued.
ابراهیم رئیسی در مجمع عمومی سازمان ملل گفت آیا آمریکا که بزرگترین زندان مادران جهان به گفته ایشون میتونه صادقانه نگران حقوق زنان باشه؟ مقام‌های جمهوری اسلامی خانم صفوی میدونین مدعی شدن همیشه که آمریکا در جایگاه اخلاقی نیست که بخواد به دیگر کشورها انتقاد کنه. پاسخ شما به اونها چه هست؟
So it's an absolutely outrageous deflection mechanism to claim that somehow what is happening in their country that is so very widely understood is not their responsibility and not the reality that women and girls are facing every day in Iran. No country is above scrutiny, and certainly the United States, we are very open to evaluating our own human rights challenges and seeking to make improvements wherever possible. And we absolutely call on Iran to do the same.
همطور که میدونید الهه محمدی و نیلوفر حامدی برای گزارشگری درباره قتل مهسا همچنان در زندان هستند و به جاسوسی برای آمریکا متهم شدند. به نظرتون برای آزادی اونها چه میشه کرد؟
I don't know enough, honestly, about the mechanisms within Iran to get them freed, but I do know that, again, we have to continue to highlight examples like this of just a terrible miscarriage of justice. These were women who were speaking the truth, who were journalists, and who brought to the world's attention something that was so tragic and that really sparked what for me has been an inspirational response and insistence by the people of Iran that their rights are considered. And as you know, I have personally spoken out about their imprisonment and will continue to make sure that we're calling attention to their case.
خانم سفیر، آیا دولت آمریکا قصد داره در اقدامی جمعی با دیگر کشورهای غربی صادرات فناوری تشخیص چهره به ایران رو که برای جاسوسی از معترضان استفاده میشه ممنوع کنه؟
That is well outside of my purview as the ambassador to the UN Human Rights Council to speak on what other countries might decide to do. But what I can say is that in the case of Iran, the way that they're using technology to further subjugate the human rights of their citizens, and particularly of women and girls, is absolutely outrageous. And again, we have a responsibility to call out the misuse of emerging technologies in Iran for this purpose.
حتما در این سالها در جریان بودید که عده‌ای در سازمان ملل استدلال می‌کنند که سپردن وظایفی به حکومت‌های مانند جمهوری اسلامی در سازمان ملل موجب بهبود اوضاع در اون کشورها میشه. آیا شواهدی برای این ادعا وجود داره و شما چنین استدلالی رو می‌پذیرید؟
Let me be very clear. It is unacceptable that Iran will be chairing the social forum. The idea that they would be chairing something that is meant to address human rights, and especially on the use of technology, when, as I just said, they are literally using technology to subjugate the human rights of their citizens, and particularly of women and girls. It's absolutely outrageous, and I have been very clear about my opposition to their leadership in that way. And no, I don't think that essentially rewarding terrible human rights abuses by legitimizing their role as a leader in a human rights space, that makes absolutely no sense. And there is nothing about that that would motivate change. So I will continue to speak out about the inappropriateness of their leadership in that way.
ولی شما فکر می‌کنید مکانیزمی برای گرفتن این مسئولیت‌ها از جمهوری اسلامی وجود داره؟
Look, I think the mechanism exists. I'm not sure that the will exists, to be honest, but we'll continue to ask that they step down, which is certainly something that they can do and would be the appropriate action. And I would hope that others would ask for the same. And then we'll continue to make sure that we're working within the system to call on their region not to allow Iran to be the nominee. And that's a responsibility that region has.
رهبر جمهوری اسلامی هولوکاست رو به دفعات انکار کرده. دیگر مقام‌های جمهوری اسلامی هم چنین مطالبی رو عنوان کردن. به عنوان فرزند نجات یافتگان از هولوکاست چه حرفی برای مقامات جمهوری اسلامی دارید؟
Holocaust denial, as you know, is a form of anti-Semitism, and we should all care about anti-Semitism, not just me as the descendant of a Holocaust survivor and a practicing Jew, but really the whole world. And I think it goes back to the concept of, why is it that the plight of women and girls in Iran important to me as a non-Iranian woman? Because we're all interconnected, and all forms of hate are interconnected. Also, the reality is that for most of history, anti-Semitism has been at the center of all forms of hate. And I describe it as like the periscope that, that racists and xenophobes and white supremacists and, anyone that's looking to further hate will send up from the periscope from their submarine to test out what's happening above the water. And if anti-Semitism floats, then the whole submarine of hate just emerges from the water. And so it's something that we should all pay attention to. Where there is a rise in anti-Semitism, there is a rise of all forms of hatred. And as you said, in Iran, it's not unique to Jews.
خانم تیلور، در پایان اگر حرفی برای میلیون ها ایرانی که این مصاحبه رو میبینن دارید، میتونید مستقیم با اونها حرف بزنید.
I think I would say to all of you that, first of all, I see you, I hear you, I am happy to be your voice. But at the end of the day, I'm also incredibly inspired by all of you and your bravery, your understanding of what your human rights should be, and your insistence that the world pay attention to that, and that I want to take my cues from you and what it is that you need from me. So please feel free to reach out and know that I am here, that I am paying attention, and that I am relentless when it comes to fighting for you.